Like every year, there seem to be two main themes coming out of the show. The first is a large service sector that's sprung up around crypto, while the next is, as we're entering a new generation of commerce, the industry needs to be equipped to address the next generation of threats. Tell us your view on crypto and how Accenture is working with its clients to prepare for a future that includes a greater presence in crypto overall.
So there's so many dimensions of the crypto question that we actually went and did some global research as Accenture, talking to banks around the world about their views about blockchain, digital currency, and crypto. And interestingly enough, central bank digital currency was the number one crypto related concern that banks had, much higher than crypto itself. So only in North America, 22% of banks that we surveyed thought that was the major disruptive angle. By contrast, 45% of North American banks thought that central bank digital currency was a major disruptive force they needed to deal with. And that holds globally as well, where 39% of those we interviewed actually believe this was a major trend they needed to think about. So our view is this is something we need to prepare for. We won't know the actual perfect future of how it will all evolve, but we encourage banks to get involved, start learning about how to deal with crypto as an asset class, and to deal with central bank digital currency as a form of payment.
I'm also interested to hear your point of view on the next generation of identity, security, and threat mitigation solutions needed as we enter the next phase of commerce.
So we believe there are plenty of things that banks need to consider, and this space is always evolving. The bad actors in the financial services segment are always investing heavily in new schemes to defraud customers and banks. And so when we talk to banks about this issue, we look at value-added services that can help them get ahead of this question. And again, this is something in our research, we found that a very significant number of banks globally care about identity, security, and fraud prevention as a value-added service that helps them be more relevant and more trusted by their customers.
And what do you see as the larger themes of the event here, Money 2020 USA, and what's excited you most?
So I actually have seen three things that I believe are critical to both legacy players in the financial services and payments industry, as well as to innovators. Data, first and foremost. Enhancing customer experiences, whether they're consumers, small businesses, or wholesale clients, is a major theme. And particularly data in the context of the movement to cloud is something that I've seen a lot of great innovations that I think banks and other legacy providers would do well to think about. I think the second theme, builds on that notion of cloud and the importance of cloud. I'm seeing a lot of cloud native platforms that are getting in and really adding value to some fundamentally traditional payments capabilities, whether it's card issuing, international payments, accounts payable and receivable. Those are all areas where I see banks and legacy service providers needing to learn more about how the cloud can enhance their existing services. And then last but not least, I think it's been very important, very telling on how ecosystem plays and partnerships are absolutely essential to competing in an environment that has so much uncertainty and volatility, that platforms that enable you to be agile and flexible and be able to respond to the latest and greatest technologies and applications are absolutely essential.
What's in your wallet right now?
Well, the question about what's in my wallet has two parts. I have a physical wallet, it's absolutely beautiful, that sits in my purse, and I have a digital wallet. In my physical wallet, I have a great assortment of cards, some of which I need for business travel or places that don't accept digital forms of payment. I have some cash. My son disconnected his Apple Wallet and was stranded somewhere, and it reminded me that cash works even when we've got other forms of digital payment. Of course, in my digital wallet, I've got Apple Pay, I've got Venmo, I've got PayPal, you name it, I've got it. And then I've got a host of merchant-specific payments that I've set up so that I can seamlessly buy just with my Face ID.
And what do you think are some of the key drivers of disruption now and in the future for legacy payment providers in North America and globally?
So again, there's so much disruption, and it's easy to be distracted by tech-led disruption. Again, when we looked at what our bank and legacy bank client perceive as the biggest disruptors, the number one disruptor over the last 20 months was change in customer expectations. The major shift that took place during the pandemic in terms of how people shop, how they pay, what the expectations they have for seamless experiences, those changes not only happened, but they are so now ingrained and grooved that that is the expectation, that is the baseline that customers expect. And 49% of North American banks believe that customer change and customer expectations is the number one disruptor. Central bank digital currency in North America is the number two, but I would say focusing on the customer, focusing on experience is the number one thing.
What's at stake if banks take their time or take a wait and see approach to modernization, given the tremendous speed of change we're seeing in the industry?
So agility is actually the number one quality that I think banks and legacy players need to invest in today to keep up with all of the change. The pace has gotten more rapid, and the number of fundamental changes, whether it's real-time payments, FedNow, underlying central bank digital currency change, these are foundational changes, and we don't know how they're all going to evolve. So building in the agility and the rapid response is critical, because cloud and digitally native innovators are getting to the end customers, whether the banks are there or not. And so the issue for banks and legacy players is if they are not part of the conversation, they're going to be left behind.
What are key areas that banks and payments players should focus on to pursue a successful growth strategy?
So I think thinking about ecosystem plays and being part of a broader ecosystem, banks have an immense amount of value. They're trusted, the regulators trust them, and being part of that regulatory environment is actually an asset in a lot of ways, because the regulators are uncertain about players who are unregulated and innovating in the space. And so the banks need to do all the things around risk and compliance and customer advocacy and connect it to deposit accounts and loans that the banks can provide, but do it in a way that feels safe, effective, and predictable in an unpredictable world.